This one is, I'm gay and I dislike Pride Month. I think this might be relatable because I do dislike Pride Month. I think I like the Pride celebration things. I like the Pride festivals, like the ones we do in the UK are usually quite nice, but I don't see the point in Pride Month. And the only justification I ever hear about it is like, well, it's because there's still homophobes. It's like, well, there's probably always going to be still homophobes. Does that mean that we need like a whole month? And like when people talk about like, you know, I don't mind these people, I just don't want them shoving their lifestyle in my face. It kind of, when we've got a whole month devoted to it and then all these like random holidays that people keep, you know, Trans Day of Visibility and shit like that, it's like, we kind of are in a way. And that's been something people have said for like the longest time, but it's never been more apt, I guess. It's like, it's hard to disagree with them when this is what it's like nowadays. But yeah, let's see what this person says. This is someone called Finding Sky, a bit of a bigger channel, 73.6K. Let's see.
Pride Month came in harder than Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball. I've been out the closet for as long as I've been out the womb, and I still have yet to go to a pride parade. I feel like the only reason I would go would be to pick up some baddies, but judging by the videos I've seen online...
Jesus, that... Hang on, let's just find it. This picture, like, grosses me the fuck out. It should gross everyone out. Like... come on, like, this is too much. This is the kind of stuff that should be in, like, the over 18, like, evening things in clubs where kids clearly wouldn't be able to get into. I think including it in the Pride Parade is strange. I don't know, like, what am I supposed to think? Like, this would freak me out. Like, when I was a kid, it would have freaked me out anyway, so...
Pride's not where the baddies go. During Pride Month, there's this widespread encouragement to be proud of something that you simply didn't choose to be. I mean, being told to be proud that I'm gay feels the same as being told to be proud that I have brown hair and two...
I actually feel this. I've never really understood the concept of pride all that much. Like, you know, I've always known a lot of people that are like very proud of like the country they're from, you know, like nationalist and stuff like that. And I don't really feel that either. Like, I was just born here. I could have been born anywhere. And it's kind of the same with like trans shit, I guess. Like, it's just what I am. I'm not really proud of it, and I'm not really ashamed of it, you know. It's just who I am. The kind of stuff I'm proud of is more stuff that I've done and good deeds and stuff like that. But that's just me. I guess I get why you'd be like, well, I'm proud to be this if it's like a more marginalized thing, but I don't know. I don't feel it myself. But yeah.
hands. I mean, I didn't really choose these things. I just popped out the pussy portal like this and I'm forced to exist with it now. If you're anything like me, it feels a little strange to be casually scrolling through your IG feed to suddenly see a rainbow assortment of posts praising an aspect of yourself that you really don't even pay much attention to. And then you get those thoughts in the back of your head like, oh, but shouldn't I be happy that these people are supporting me? I mean, hey, there's a whole month dedicated to celebrating an aspect of myself that was once unacceptable. So this is a good thing, right? These surface level thoughts try to convince you to be happy about it, but something internally is still just not sitting well. See, if you keep
yeah, this resonates a bit. I don't really feel that way, like, and at the ones that I've been in, at the kind of events that I've been to, because normally it's been either with like friends or like with my partner or like family or whatever, and it's generally fine. Like, you can chat to people that run stalls and like see some entertainment and stuff, and it's usually fine. I'm not into like what you'd call gay music, I guess. Like, I listen to very different stuff, but it's, you know, it's a kind of experience that you wouldn't just get anywhere else, and you kind of get a bit of the culture from it. So I kind of like the Pride events. It's more Pride Month that I really don't like.
Making these special months and these special parades, then it makes gayness special. And I know I can't speak for everyone, but I don't want to be treated like I'm special, especially not for something as trivial as my sexuality. I have no desire to be treated like I'm different when I feel perfectly normal. Some people might think that the Pride parades encourage people to be more accepting of the community, but to be honest,
it really depends on the parade and what they're doing. Like, if you're an old man gyrating your ass around, your dick wobbling around in your underpants, and that's all you're wearing, and you're staring at kids, like, shaking your junk around, then, you know, that doesn't make me proud to be anything.
I disagree. The only way you're gonna reach normalcy is when you stop constantly highlighting the fact that you're different. I can feel this awkward...
That's true. But hey, that's why some of us are stealth. Like, for me, the one thing with, like, you get all these people that wear these, you know, pins and stuff, and like all the the pride colors and stuff, but like all the time rather than just during Pride. To me, it's kind of like getting one of those, hi, my name is, and then writing it on there and sticking it on there, like labeling yourself so hardcore. I don't see the point. And like, you can get like a pronoun badge, but people aren't necessarily going to look at it, so, or even respect it if they do. So, hey, like, I don't like othering myself, and I feel like, oh yeah, the Monopoly dude. Oh yeah, it is the Monopoly dude. I get him mistaken with the Pringles guy. He looks, to me, reminds me of the Pringles guy, but like older. I just realized. Yeah, what was I saying? I can't.
Distance between my reach normalcy is when you.
Yeah, I feel like we other ourselves way more than other people other us. And it doesn't always sit well with me. Like, I don't like othering myself. That's a different time. Yeah, true.
Stop constantly highlighting the fact that you're different. I can feel this awkward distance.
Yeah, that's what it is othering yourself. And we don't like being othered, but we'll do it to ourselves. And to an extent, that's fine. I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm white, so I'll make white people jokes, kind of othering myself for being white. But it's kind of, it depends how you do it. You know, when it's this all-encompassing thing that seems to take over every city for like a whole month, I can see why it gets tiring. And to me, I don't think it's helpful anymore. I don't think it's bringing people in, especially when we're constantly being like, oh, we need to kick this party and that party out. There's people on Twitter going on about trying to block like Labour from having any marches or anything in Pride parades because they're potentially taking transgender ideology out of schools, which to me, if you look at it on the other side, what it sounds like is you've got this thing where if you encourage it in kids, they might, you know, take it on. And then suddenly they're like much more likely to kill themselves. And suddenly you have to like consent to them getting all these like treatments and stuff. Otherwise they might kill themselves. And to me, that's like crazy. So like, I actually, I empathize with parents a lot that are like, you know, the idea of their kid coming out as trans would be like terrifying because it's like, oh, shit, what do I do? You know, there's such a stigma around this. Like, we're always hearing about these trans people that are like killing themselves and like trans kids and stuff doing it. So it's rough. I can empathize. And a lot of the people that are pro teaching kids all this stuff, pro trans kids and all that kind of stuff, they don't seem to have any kids. I don't either, but I'm not suggesting that they transition, so.
Between myself and an acquaintance when they find out I'm gay. There's this subtle pause where I can tell they feel some amount of social pressure to say something supportive so that they don't seem homophobic. There's this weird pressure put on straight people that if they're not openly supportive.
Yeah, I used to get that myself. Like, when I first started transitioning, I worked at a Wetherspoon pub for a bit over a year. This is like a chain of pubs in the UK, quite cheap, usually kind of quite Brexity, if you know what I mean by that. But anyway, I used to work there, and it was the start of my transition. It was like even more obvious that I'm trans than it is now. But yeah, you get the odd person that like you could tell they felt obliged to be like, oh my god, like you're so brave and stuff like that. And it's like I'd rather people just talk to me like a normal human being. Like, I'm not really here to show myself off as a fabulous trans woman like fucking Jeffrey Marsh or some shit. I was there to serve people, you know. So like, you know, I wouldn't say anything, but there was always this feeling of like, I wish that I'd just be treated normally, I guess. And I still feel that way. I'd rather people just treat me like a person, and they don't have to really acknowledge my gender if they're a bit uncomfortable about addressing it in any way. You know, I don't really care at the end of the day. Like, people don't really use your pronouns like directly to you anyway, so yeah.
Or actively participating, then they're somehow not an ally. When in actuality, most people just don't care. They don't care that you're gay. It makes no difference to them. Your sexuality.
True. It's the same with trans as well. Like, most people don't give a shit. Like, that's another thing with like the online shit. So like, all these people on Twitter, they seem to think that the world is like super, super hostile at all times to trans people. Whereas in actual fact, in general, like, if you just work somewhere, the chances of like your colleagues giving you shit are actually quite low because most people genuinely don't really care. I mean, I worked in an office for almost 5 years. I used the women's bathroom. You know, I've been post-op for a long time. No one gave a shit. No one ever made comments about me that I know about. If they did it elsewhere, and that's up to them. I don't know. I was always respected. I had much bigger problems to deal with than being trans. And that's kind of another thing, is like, I think that maybe people who have other things going on in their life as well as being trans, like certain kinds of mental health issues and so on, I think it kind of puts it more into perspective. Because for me, it's like the trans stuff, like, yeah, some of it sucks. Like some of the bills you see come out sucks, but I just have bigger things to worry about. And when I go out and go around and stuff, like I don't really get shit from people. I get the odd comment thrown at me from like a fucking van window, and it's like, you know, if you can't even say that to my face and you have to say it while your friend is driving you off, then that's pretty weak. So I don't know why I should care about those kind of people, but yeah, people just don't really care. And I wish there were more trans people out there with a more realistic perspective on this, because like you can have a decently okay life post transition, even if you had puberty in the wrong body, as it were, and then you transitioned, and now you have a deep voice and like certain features. Like that's just kind of how it is. But yeah, people are fine for the most part, really. People in general love the drama. True. Even if it's something that happens on rare occasions, it gets highlighted as the common thing, I guess. Yeah, I think people don't need many examples of something to start forming patterns in their heads. Like, you know, you're not white, and occasionally a white person will say something rude to you because of it. You might start thinking like, oh, these white people, like, you know, they're always saying this kind of shit to me, when in actual fact you walk past 20 other white people every time that say nothing or smile at you or whatever. Like everyone tends to accentuate the negative, I guess. But yeah, it's kind of annoying. I wish there were more realistic perspectives out there, because I see like these kind of, not this person, but like trans streamers that sit at home most days streaming, and like their friends and stuff are online, and then they're trying to tell you how like society should work when they barely participate in society. And sometimes with these people, like the few times they leave their house, like, yeah, they do get some shit. But you got to think about how they're looking and stuff. Like some of them, you know, I wouldn't leave my house looking like that either, you know what I'm saying? But we're like entitled to something that we're not, because unfortunately people are rude to each other. It doesn't matter if someone's going to be rude to you. It doesn't matter if you're trans or what color you are, or like what your sexuality is. They'll find something. And, you know, it's not something that you can really... People just want to be like, oh, well, the world should stop being so transphobic. Like, that's not going to happen. Some people are just dicks. And some people are dicks, like, not just to trans people, but plenty of other people. Yeah, I just want more realistic perspectives.
Sexuality is completely irrelevant in their mind, which is exactly how it should be. Do you really want to be treated any differently on the basis of who you want to hump? I just find it strange to see people wearing their sexuality like it's some badge of honor. Like maybe we should reconsider giving
I don't mind it as much. Like, this person, where is it?
Just find it strange to see people wearing their sexuality.
This person is at one of the pride parades. I guess it's fine, you know, there's a reason why they're wearing that. But there's definitely people out there that kind of, they wear it like all the time, not wearing this necessarily, but like, you know, wearing like gender signifiers, like, you know, pride pins and patches and stuff like that. And I don't understand it myself. As I said before, it feels like othering. And for me, like, being trans is just like a part of who I am. Like, it doesn't really preside over my personality or anything. Like, I didn't really change all that much when I decided to transition. Like, I'm still the same person. I just kind of, you know, I've grown since then, obviously, but not because I'm trans, you know? So yeah, I don't know. Some people, it seems like it's all there is to them, and it's their whole personality. For me, I accept. I talk about it a lot. I talk about it on stream and stuff, but I have my reasons for doing so. And yeah, there's definitely some people, it seems like it's their whole personality.
Like it's some badge of honor. Like maybe we should reconsider giving relevance to this really irrelevant detail about us. I mean,
Yeah, I feel that.
Like to say there's more depth in my character than my love for big booty Latinas. I understand.
Exactly. Like, you know, imagine like you meet someone and all they'll talk to you about is like their trans identity and like what they identify and stuff. And it's like, for me, I'd rather learn about what people like and stuff, you know, like what are people interested in? you know, like, if you're gay, then cool. Like, you like to fuck guys, I guess. And if you're queer, then that could mean about a million different things. And, you know, don't fucking call me that shit. But, like, you know, we're supposed to have, like, personalities outside of that. And it used to be kind of the case. Like, you'd kind of get people that would say stuff like that. But nowadays, we want to treat it like it is this, like, overarching thing that, you know, I don't just walk to the shop. I walk to the shop as a trans person, you know. I do it in a trans way. Like, come on. I don't know if that made sense, but you know what I mean.
And that in many ways the LGBT community is still pushing to be more accepted. But I guess the part I don't understand is why you need that acceptance anyway. Legally, you can get married to who you want now, so what are you pushing for? After enough time and effort, a push starts to feel like a shove. And that's...
So, like, who was it I saw? I think it was that crazy woman on Piers Morgan, and then there were two... Were there two or one other person? But this guy was sort of talking about, like, you know, being asked why we need Pride Month, and it's like, well, because of homophobes, there's still people that don't accept us. I don't know if taking over more of the calendar and putting more flags everywhere that we've been seeing and getting ever so slightly sick of for years now is going to convert the last remaining ones. Like, it feels more like an invasion than a, you know, acceptance movement at this point. Like, why do we need a whole month? By the time it's over, it's like, I never want to see another fucking progress flag as long as I live.
That's the point I feel like we passed a long time ago, where we're not just raising awareness and support, but trying to force others to agree with it. That's when you really start to see some pushback and the progress you were making for the community actually starts to regress. I mean, overall, I feel like...
I agree with that. I think what they'd probably say is, like, it's not just about gay issues anymore. So, like she said about gay marriage, but, like, you know, they'll point out, like, trans issues that are still ongoing. I mean, if we're going to do Pride Month until every trans person is accepted, then it's never going to end. Because I think trans is always going to be contentious to a lot of people. Like, you're saying you can change, like, your gender. In some cases, say that you're changing your sex or whatever, if you're a bit deluded about it. So I don't really understand it. I think it is, like, very forceful. It feels like an invasion, and to me it's othering. I don't like it at all. I don't like stuff that's apparently to my benefit but just kind of others me and makes me feel uncomfortable.
Like, straight people have been pretty nice to us. Sure, I got called a faggot and a dyke more times than I could count, but for every person who called me a slur, there were thousands that voted in support of gay marriage. A lot of people have been tolerant of us, and I just think it's a good idea to return some of that tolerance.
True, and lots of people who are tolerant, they might have, like, one opinion that's a little bit less pro-gay or pro-trans. Like, maybe they also don't think there needs to be a Pride Month, or maybe they think that, you know, you shouldn't be able to transition until you're 18 because of consent issues, which is similar to me. But, like, for a lot of people, that's enough to get you labeled as, like, an anti-trans bigot and shit like that, or an anti-gay bigot, you know? Like, you have to agree with every single thing they say, otherwise you're a bigot. And it kind of feels like people use Pride Month as well. It's like whenever someone says something, like, quasi-transphobic, it's like, and you said that on Pride Month?
It's okay if someone's not okay with you being gay. They have their own life, their own experiences, and their own freedom to believe whatever they want. It's pretty...
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. Like, we love to make such a big deal, like, pointing out when people are transphobic and stuff. Like, what happens when someone's actually, like, transphobic? And you're saying, I think you're transphobic. And their response is like, yeah, I kind of am, actually. It's like, okay, what do we do now? So it's not a good argument. I don't see the point in it.
Pretty unreal how the LGBT community is known for being an inclusive and accepting group, yet they're extremely...
It's not, though.
...excluding of anyone who doesn't fully align with 100% of their values.
Okay, she nailed it there. That's all you need to hear. It's completely true. I don't know, my band got kicked off of Trans Pride because someone found my Twitter, which is nice. You know, no one else ever shit posted on Twitter, I guess. Fucking hell. But like, yeah, these kind of movements, I started getting really anxious around not so much gay people, because when I go to, like, gay bars and stuff, like, people are cool, and I'm quiet and standoffish anyway, so, like, I think people just kind of move around me. But like, trans spaces especially, and, like, seeing other trans people and having to interact with them, like, that's what made me really anxious. Like, the way that other trans people tend to feel about cis people, which to me is usually out of ignorance, because like most normal people are just normal and they don't really care. And, you know, they will probably accept your pronouns and shit because they're just not, they don't give a shit. Like, if that's what makes you feel better, then fair enough. Like, that seems to be most people. And there's obviously louder people that are less accepting of that. And to me, it's like, well, whatever, you know, if someone doesn't accept me, I'm not going to be their friend. Like, who cares? But like nowadays, it's like any tiny difference you have with someone that has to be magnified to fuck. And like, you know, a case has to be made where you're actually a super homophobic or transphobic person, which is insane to me. So like, yeah, you have like one wrong position and it's like, get out. The worst thing is like, we want to get rid of things like police and like certain political parties from our pride events. But like, how do you like build relationships with other people? How do you build relationships with other groups when anytime you've got a problem with some group, you like blanket kick them out, no more, you're not allowed here anymore? Like, it makes no sense to me. You'd think that a pride parade would be the best way to do it. Like a pride event, because they can experience some of the gay culture, they can talk to some of the people at the stands, like, you know, maybe even try and build some trust between like, say, the police and the gay community. But we seem to have this opposite mentality where it's anyone that's done anything wrong to us, we're now like bigoted towards them. And it comes from the same place, let's be real. Like, if you hate a certain group of people because you've had certain bad experiences, or not even that you've had bad experiences, but someone else has, like, it comes from the same place. You're just putting an extra step of, well, they did something first. It's like, well,
They're so inclusive that if you're not inclusive, they exclude you. Get it? If we're
true. Inclusivity paradox, I guess. You have to include the uninclusive. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense however they do it, really, but this isn't the way.
we're gonna preach open-mindedness, then let's actually be open-minded. That means being open to people who completely disagree with your worldview. Real open-mindedness means being tolerant to opinions that...
True, and what's really annoying, like, people that don't agree with me, I guess, will think that I must be pandering to different groups, like pandering to the right wing or pandering to TERFs, which is not true. I can find some middle ground with them. Like, to me, I like being able to, I guess, identify kind of what we have in common as well as what's different about us, and make sure that both things are kind of shown more equally. But, you know, like, any sympathy you show for like an enemy group or whatever, it's like you're a bootlicker, you're cozying up to the TERFs. They won't spare you. They won't spare you when you're up against the wall, which is totally gonna fucking happen ever. But then these people are all larpy, like, communist anarchist freaks. So yeah. Truthfully, I don't really care much what they say, and if people want to call me whatever, they can. But it'd be nice if I had some more like actual conversations about it instead of people just feeling inclined to do the same thing over and over. Because most people don't know what they're talking about, and most people have these like pre-prepared responses to everything, and that seems to be how they do it.
That don't align with your own. There are people who will never relate to your perspective, and they don't have to. As crazy as
True.
it sounds, I think I could be friends with a homophobe. I grew up never being accepted.
I probably could as well. Hey, I've like been out for like New Year's and stuff like that, and ended up talking to people that were quite like skeptical about trans, and were like, you know, I just don't think, you know, if you're a boy, you're a boy, and stuff like that. And, you know, rather than just soying out and getting upset and calling them a transphobe and all that shit, you know, I actually try and talk to them and explain a little bit what it's like from my side. And usually people will like moderate a little bit.
I don't care if you don't like who I am. I'm open to hearing your perspective, even if it's not one that I personally subscribe to.
Yes, I agree. Like, when I have conversations with people, I've kind of gotten better at just putting my emotions to one side and being like, well, this is how this person feels. I can try and move them a bit. We're probably never gonna agree that much, but it's okay.
I'm never gonna try to force you to adopt my point of view. That's a trivial battle I have zero interest in fighting. And honestly, adopting that kind of attitude is a hell of a lot more likely to warm somebody up to gayness than screaming at them that they're evil and homophobic. I personally feel like this ideology of constantly needing acceptance is just a juvenile expectation overall. There's always gonna be people who don't like you and don't accept you. That's just a normal part of life. As long as they're not gatekeeping opportunities from you or deliberately trying to harm you, then that lack of acceptance really shouldn't even bother you. I feel like the LGBT community is so quick to blame their inability to fit in or be liked on their sexuality. Like, oh, it's because I'm gay, or it's because they're homophobic. When in reality, that's probably only the case a small percentage of the time. I also find it kind of strange how the LGBT community is marketed these days. And I use the word marketed very intentionally here because it does feel like social propaganda that's trying to sell you something. LGBT is
yeah, I mean, it's more and more of a politics fucking movement nowadays. But a politics movement where we don't seem to think that we have to care about things like PR or like optics. So most of the people that represent us are just morons. And often, because they're like non-conformists, they'll show up looking ridiculous, sounding ridiculous, acting ridiculous. And for most people, it's like, this, why would I support this kind of thing, you know?
Presented as all sunshine and rainbows. Literally, the flag that represents the community is a rainbow. But it's no secret this community struggles severely. Mental health outcomes are trash. Our self-delete rates are ridiculously high. And don't even get me started on the involved, lengthy, tedious...
What she said about the self-delete thing is actually a very good point, and I wish people would broaden their minds and realize that things like trans rights going downhill, things like, you know, the trans experience going downhill, it's not just because of the government, you know? It's easier to blame sexuality for one lacks in personality. Yeah, definitely. I think probably a lot of people, anything that they have about themselves that's different, they might want to latch onto and use to explain things that might actually just be flaws in their thinking and stuff, because it's easier to blame it on something like that. I don't know. For me personally, I've always tried to identify flaws as best I can and be as self-aware as I can, but it's kind of, I don't know how you teach that kind of mentality. I don't know how you teach, like, I think it's called mindfulness. I don't know how you teach that to someone. I was doing that kind of thing like accidentally. Like my dad was talking to me about like mindfulness and I was like, I kind of do that already. It's crazy. But yeah.
process of trying to have a kid with someone who's the same sex. There are many aspects of gayness that just suck. Like, it's weirdly romanticized on social media these days, and I don't get it. Like, why glamorize it? I gotta spend thousands of dollars to extract my eggs, pay to keep them in a baby freezer, find a sperm donor, and then once it's all said and done, there's only like a 30% chance of success. So if it doesn't work, I gotta pay for that process.
Do you know why people aren't really talking about this kind of thing? It's because most gay and so on people don't really want kids. But then they'll still tell you about how your kid needs puberty blockers that they're going to kill themselves. So, yeah, that's nice.
Says all over again. I can't just nut in the bitch and then 9 months later she poops out a baby. Like, this shit's complicated. Been a year since I released my last LGBT
I love lesbians.
video about pride. And what's amazing is that 2 million people watched it, but it feels like nobody listened. People in the comments were calling me a traitor, saying things like, friendly fire will not be tolerated. But when did we ever declare a war? I don't want to fight you. You've built your entire identity.
True. It's like we think it is a war, especially on the fucking trans side, where we're at war with fucking Labour. Labour, who, by the way, fucking the TERFs, the gender criticals, are also screaming about and also saying, oh, they've turned their back on women. And then at the exact same time, trans people are like, they've turned their back on trans people. It's like, well, which is it? But hey, listen, it's Labour or Reform pretty much at this point. Like, the Greens aren't going to get in. No one gives a fuck about the Lib Dems. Everyone hates the Tories now. Like, who else is there, you know? So you can be a moron and try and tank that particular campaign. But hey, maybe you'll realize you made a huge mistake. There's a tiny part of me that's like, I should vote Reform out of like some kind of accelerationism, but I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not an accelerationist. It's just some of this shit has gone so far that I often wonder, maybe we should show them what like real fascism looks like for a bit. Not that I'm saying Reform are fascist, but you know, these people talk big about fascism. They probably think fucking Keir Starmer's a fascist. Like, what if we got in the actual like far right and see how life is under them? And think maybe it's more about compromise than trying to force our shit on everyone else, trying to force the culture in a direction that it's now resisting, because I think culture can only move so fast in general. I think when you try and force it, you can make great strides with the people that agree with you in your bubble, but you know, you're just making all this progress on your own towards something that no one else wants. And then whenever you talk to all the normal people about it, it sounds insane because you've got here on your own without, you know, making sure that anyone else understands what the fuck you're talking about. So it's not very workable, really.
identity on something as trivial as who you want to sleep with. And as far as I'm aware, you didn't make that decision, and neither did I. I'm not firing shots. I'm telling you it's dumb to have your guns out in the first place. You think there's way more people who care about this than there actually are. Nobody cares about who you're trying to hump except for whoever's trying to get humped.
Yeah, this is the thing. Actually going out into the real world and being around people, you know, having a job, which, again, you've got plenty of like trans, etc. people that don't work, possibly have never worked. You've got some of them that have like live streams having never really worked and not spent very much time around other people that want to tell everyone how society works when they don't participate in it. And I find that really fucking cringe. Like, admittedly, I'm doing the same thing. I'm sat at home talking about shit, but like, you know, I'm a bit older. I'm in my 30s. I've had a lot of experiences and I know what it's like. I know what people generally are like towards trans people, and most people don't care. If I was to like add up all the negative interactions and then all the interactions where I just walked past someone who had nothing to say and didn't care about me, the negative things are like the tiny minority. Like, yeah, they're the ones that I'll remember most because it's like hurtful or whatever, but it's important not to get carried away with that shit. And unfortunately, the other thing is there's a huge incentive to have a victim mentality. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in like trans circles. Like every tiny thing, we have to push it as if we're like these huge victims, and it's like yet more evidence of this agenda against us. When, you know, when it just doesn't seem to be like that. It just kind of seems that we want a lot more than what society can give. And, you know, it's not the same as being gay, where like you're just gay and you just go on with your life and that's it. Like, we actually want stuff from the government because we want, you know, we want our healthcare to be on the NHS and stuff, which it is, but it takes a long time to get seen by anyone because it's very oversubscribed because everyone thinks being trans is cool now. So, you know, there's more of an aspect of it involving other people than anyone else, especially in countries where there's healthcare, because that's taxpayers' money, you know? So they're only ever going to be able to do so much because they're going to start getting people complaining about using taxpayers' money for trans people to get their shit inverted, you know? I can see why it rubs some people the wrong way. You know, we have plenty of people who complain about foreign aid or people on benefits because, again, it's taxpayers' money, all sorts, you know? But yeah, to me, it's always going to be an issue for a lot of people, and I don't think we should ever expect all that much. Just kind of basic dignity would be nice for me.
People were wanting me to make more LGBT related videos, but I didn't want to because continuously bringing it up just gives this trivial thing way more importance than it deserves. The best thing this community can do right now is to be quiet. And I know it sounds harsh for me saying that, but
I did that right. Based. I want to hear that again.
Community can do right now is to be quiet.
That's true. We don't need to be louder and prouder and more obnoxious. We need to do the opposite.
And I know it sounds harsh for me saying that, but there's just a lot of noise coming from this community. And it sucks knowing that by making this video, I'm really just adding to it, but I'm not trying to add fuel to the flames.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of people that talk, but don't say anything. Or say the exact same shit that everyone else is saying, like, trans rights are human rights, trans women are women. None of it really matters. You're not really doing anything. You're just, it's like getting a nail and just hammering it over and over, and the nail's gone in, but you won't stop hammering it. And it's like, yeah. Trans rights are human. Yeah, I know. You're gonna keep saying, oh, fucking hell. You know what I mean? Like, fuck me.
Holding a fire extinguisher, trying to put it out.
Okay, that was Finding Skylar. I might watch more videos from her. Like, not right now. I just like the LGBT community. Actually, you know what? I've got ages. Let's see what this one's about. These are the kind of adverts you get in the UK, isn't it great? God, I really can't wait to play New World Eternum. Oh, so before I watched this, there was a comment by the author. YouTube removed this video for hate speech. I appealed and thankfully they accepted. I wonder if they didn't realize that she's literally like also a gay person. This video is back up and here to stay. Thank you for the people supporting the video. Fair enough.
This is almost over. Thank God, because if I see another rainbow flag on my feed, I might buy a pack of Skittles and start slingshotting them at my screen.
No, 50-50, man!
My distaste may come as a surprise to some people, considering I'm actually a part of the LGBT community. In case you haven't noticed.
Yeah, I think people get confused by the dissonance of it. Like, The same way that I'm not very pro a lot of trans rights activism. And so people assume there must be something wrong with me, I guess. Which I wish people would just listen to each other, especially when it's like your fellow trans saying, actually, there's some problems here. But people don't like to do that. They want to defend something that they're part of, probably because that's their community. And, you know, to admit something's wrong with it would be to have to question some of those relationships. So, hey, it's easier to take the coward's way out. And I do think there's plenty of cowardly people in these spaces, to be clear.
From my endless references to titties and busty Latinas in the past 10 videos, I like hot chicks. This is not a coming out video. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I don't need a rainbow flag and a teary-eyed video confessing the fact that I like big butts and I cannot lie, but it may be
You know what's weird? Like, when I see someone like this, I instantly sort of am not sure how to address them. Like, is that a she? Is that a they? Is that a he? But like, if this video was like 10 years ago, I wouldn't think that at all. I'd just be like, oh, a gay woman, cool, you know. I don't know. I hate how a lot of the gender shit has kind of fucked with my brain, because now so many people don't even look like men or women to me. They just look like something in between, but not in a good way, in a gray paste kind of way, in a way that we took the rainbow and we just shoved it through a blender and now we just got this paste and we're queer now, and that's just everyone. We've all got the same term for everyone, and it's just, I don't know what anyone is. I don't know what's interesting about anyone, but I know that they're all queer, so that's good.
Interesting to hear that I'm actually extremely ashamed to be a part of this community. And look,
Haha, same.
I know we've come a long way. There was a period of time when anyone who wasn't heterosexual was scrutinized, or in severe cases, even killed. And as glad as I am that I can walk down the street holding a girl's hand and not face the scrutiny, I also feel like we've passed the point of acceptance and are now at the point of blatant indoctrination. Someone has to say it. These pride parades have gotten disgusting. It's not even about acceptance anymore. It's a provocative and aggressive public display of hypersexuality.
Is that a leash that person is on? Hang on.
And fetish. What was so
Oh no, they've got a whip. I don't know about that either. I don't know. The kink stuff, like, who was it? There was some dumb fuck talking about how, like, if you're against kink at Pride, it's like because you're still a bit reactionary or something. Like, it's not about that. Like, I don't know why it's wrong to not want your kids to see the slavery is back. Yeah, it does make you wonder. It does kind of look a bit like that. I don't like this stuff being in the public places. I think in, like, the clubs, like, after hours, like, the later stuff, like, yeah, where it's all over 18s, then yeah, like, kinky shit, so long as everyone's happy, everyone's consenting, everyone knows what they're going to, like, cool, yeah, do what you want. I don't know why this would be in public. Like, this seems like too much. Like, I think part of the whole point of, like, gay pride parades is to show that with gay people, there's actually way more to them than just who they fuck. But this seems to be going back to who we fuck and how we fuck is, like, the big deal here, when any of these people, they can have, like, jobs and shit and go around as normal people, and they just do this in private, and that's fine. Like, why not keep it that way, you know?
supposed to be an accepting and innocent space has turned.
Oh, you actually, like, whipped him and stuff. I'm not comfortable with this. Maybe I'm not like a sexual person. Like, I take a medication, which means that I have, like, zero libido, so I'm just not that way inclined anyway. But I feel like even if I was that kind of person, I feel like I'd be uncomfortable with this. And, like, are those shorts? Is he wearing anything?
Into a hostile.
I think he's wearing shorts. I hope so. Like, that's, like, he's wearing very little. That's almost nothing. This isn't a fucking nudist beach, you know what I mean?
Freak show. I didn't go to Pride, never will, unless it's to document the absurdity
I'm never going to Pride ever again, but I've got my own reasons for that. Fuck Pride.
of it. But this is what LGBT is associated with now. It's no longer associated.
Isn't everything different collectively gets celebrated during these festivals? I guess nowadays, yeah. I just think I have a limit, you know. I don't know that I want to be... If I was putting on a parade, I wouldn't feel good having a section full of, like, guys in, like, leather harnesses and nothing else, like, whipping each other, like, just dressed up as gimps and shit. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting that on. And it makes me wonder about the people that run these events that allow people to do this, like in public, in front of kids. Like, I think there's just some things that should be in private. And like, with like gay stuff, again, it's not just about like fucking. Like, if you're out with your boyfriend and you're a guy and you're just walking down the street holding hands, then like, yeah, what's wrong with that? It's not like you're walking down the street like fucking thrusting him, you know what I'm saying? But with that kind of thing, it's like the dress and stuff whilst you're doing it is like what's emblematic of it. So you kind of are shoving your sexuality in people's faces by default, including kids that are there who don't know what this shit means. Maybe they're too young to really understand it. I just don't like it. Maybe I'm a prude and I'm trying to justify it post hoc or whatever the term is, but it's not for me. I've had people get really, really pissy at me because I didn't like that video of that man in his underwear, like shaking his junk around, like staring at kids in the face. I thought that was disgusting personally. I've had people who seem to think that I'm a terrible person for thinking so when, you know, what's a man that age doing, like shaking that shit around in front of kids, you know? What's a organizer doing, allowing someone to do that, you know? Kind of makes it have no cause at all. Yeah, basically. That's my problem with like queer. It just seems to refer to like anyone who's a bit different, even if they're straight nowadays. So it's like, well, what does it mean? Like, does that mean I am? Because I never consented to that term. I don't really know what it means. But that seems to be what queer is about to me. It's just anything different, but it all just ends up looking like the same thing. And a lot of people who say that they're queer look exactly the same to me. Like, ironically, you've kind of got the stereotype male queer with like the nail polish and, you know, maybe like no hair on top and a beard or whatever the fuck else, eye makeup. And then you've got like the female queer trope, like, you know, the short hair that's dyed a certain color, the eye makeup, like the million piercings. Everyone's got septum piercings that are like fangs coming out of their nose or something. I don't understand it. Yeah, it seems like a fashion movement to me, if anything, but, you know, hey, if it brings you some joy being queer, then, hey, whatever, I guess. You have fun with that.
Associated with peace, love, unity, and tolerance. Instead, it's associated with hypersexualization, provocation, fetish, and bigotry. I don't know what happened to the days when
True. I agree with all that.
we would encourage people to accept themselves and make peace with those who disagree with us. Because now we just scream obscenities at anyone even whispering a subtle argument. This community has meant—
True. Like, the kind of stuff I watch on like TV things, like the TV arguments, they don't really get into it as much, and they don't really sort of scream arguments as much because there has to be some kind of level of respectability. I don't know why they not take that further, but hey. And then like, when you just talk to random people, it's amazing how quickly people will just start getting absolutely hostile because you question a tiny part of their ideology. And, you know, I'm not quite at the stage of like being able to properly substantiate it yet, but there is definitely an ideology. Like, there can't not be. Like, it's a political movement at this point. And we know how people get around politics, so I don't know why we drag that so much into our shit. Except I do, it's because we do want to exclude people. We do want to other people. Yeah, it's turned into something that I cannot abide, personally. I'm not fucking going to Pride again. Screw that noise.
Managed to weaponize its own labels and use them unfairly, not hesitating to label any opposition as transphobic or homophobic. It's funny because
True. Part of me wants to know the ulterior motive for the Monopoly guy being on the wall there. I don't know. Usually, you know, quirky sense of fashion, quirky sense of interior designing. I don't know. I don't deal with the interior designing in this house except for this room. My partner does all of that. And we've got all kinds of random stuff on our walls because I don't give a shit. So I'm like, hey, you want to put stuff up? You just put stuff up. And then I just leave little deers lying around, and that's pretty much my contribution. But yeah, one of them's got a quirky sense of interior decorating. It's kind of a lesbian thing, I think.
Used to be the ones complaining about intolerance. Two girls holding hands in public were at risk of being fucking shot. They couldn't adopt kids, get married, start a family, so I completely understand why
Yeah, it's funny how, like, the less oppression there is, the worse it gets in terms of, like, our attitudes, to where it ends up being, now we're the assholes, and now the current thing, which is trans rights, is starting to go badly because we're the assholes. But it's making people just double down on it, so it's like, okay, great, I don't know, what are we supposed to do? Personally, I think what we're supposed to do is burn the entire fucking movement down and start again from some kind of period, some kind of position of normalcy. I don't know. That came out terribly.
Why we spent so many years fighting for tolerance, but we have it now. And ever since we've been shown tolerance,
like, there's definitely going to be people that will say arguments as to why there isn't so much tolerance, but I think even with trans people, we've come such a fucking long way. And it seems nowadays people just want to be like, well, we've tried being nice and it's not got us anywhere. Like, I think you'll find actually it kind of has, because the people that make trans more acceptable are like trans people that are just out there in society, like being a productive member of society, like going out there helping people, doing a job that helps people, doing a job that contributes to society, and getting on with it and still being a nice person and shit. That's kind of what gets you rights. Being an asshole to everyone doesn't get you rights. And, you know, so many people, like, the worst thing is, like, trans people end up being herded onto the internet because there's not that many trans people around, and people want to be around at least some people that are similar to themselves, right? You know, I used to feel that way as well. I don't really care who's trans anymore that I hang out with. So they go on the internet and everyone on the internet is nuts, and they get these, like, this, like, Twitter fucking attitude towards the world, which is just completely ass backwards. And, you know, it feels like it's everyone I meet in real life, and now it's not just the crazies on the internet. We kind of suck these days, no offense.
tolerance, we're now the ones refusing to reciprocate it. We've now become the side that is intolerant to opposing beliefs. The script has flipped completely, and it's not for the better. See, back in the day when I was a little G rolling up on my Heelys trying to finesse the hoes, I didn't even know what gay was.
This person's quite funny. Like, I should probably be finding that a bit cringy, but, like, I don't know, she's kind of funny.
Much less what trans was. I grew up in the South, the deep South, like frogging, gator hunting, Confederate flag South. I thought LGBT stood for let's go beer tasting. I didn't know a single gay person in my life, and I didn't have a phone or any.
She sounds like, not in a bad way, she sounds like she probably had her first beer age about 3 or something. Not in a diss kind of way, not in a you've got brain damage kind of way, just in a that's just what it's like there or something.
Type of social media to be exposed to it either. And yet somehow I looked like this. Yeah, that 7 or 8 year old me, dope slinging and pimping since '01, baby. My idol, if you can't tell, was Rob Dyrdek. And let me tell you, I got made fun of all the time. If only I had $1 for every time someone asked me.
Yeah, see, I got that as well, and it wasn't from knowing gay people or being part of a gay community. Like, I was just super effeminate because I was a boy, and I was just super effeminate for a really long time. I wasn't like a trans kid because I grew up in the 90s. I didn't know what fucking trans was. I'd see the occasional, like, newspaper clipping of, like, men who think they're women, and to me it was like, that's not what I want at all. I'd rather have been a girl than a boy, and I'm not a man who thinks he's a woman. But, like, that was about it, and yet, you know, I still ended up being feminine. I got this shit ripped out of me a lot.
Are you a boy or a girl? Why do you dress like a boy? And I would always get so pissed off when people would call me gay, faggot, dyke, because at the time, I didn't know that I was gay. So I would just...
Yeah, it was similar for me. And, you know, swapped gay for trans, I guess.
Just be standing there like, what the fuck are you even talking about? I'm none of these things that you're calling me. It wasn't until I was going into high school that I realized, oh shit, I like tits. Everyone around me knew before I knew. The reason I'm telling you this story is so that you're aware that I wasn't acting or pretending or trying to fit a label or any of that bullshit. I never dressed like a boy out of opposition for tradition. I never...
Yeah, I feel that, yeah. I didn't know I was trans when I was like fucking 10 or whatever, but I don't know, I gave everyone gay vibes even though I wasn't gay, so I don't know.
did it in pursuit of being unique. As cringy as it sounds, I was genuinely just being myself. My interests were never in Barbies or playing house. I wanted to play basketball and build Lego City. I was never constantly in my head thinking, oh, if I do this masculine thing, then this feminine. No, what 8-year-old kid thinks about that? For an 8-year-old kid to be thinking like that, they would either have to be medically neurotic or extremely brainwashed by social media. I didn't have TikTok or Instagram as an 8-year-old.
Yeah, social media with kids, like, scares the fuck out of me. Like, we didn't have it when I was that age, you know, when I was 8 in 1998. We didn't have fucking Instagram and all that shit. Like, now, I feel like parents have to be so careful who their kids are, like, talking to on the internet and stuff. And it's gonna cause tons of friction between, like, parents and children. But, I mean, God, just imagining that, like, my nephew or something ended up talking to people that were, like, trying to get him into this weird cult. Like, some kind of protector gene inside me would, like, override, and I don't know what would happen, because I don't want these fucking freaks getting their hands on him, you know what I mean? I don't want them getting their hands on anyone, quite frankly, because it kind of seems like they're selling kids an idea, which is potentially then going to make them want to kill themselves unless they have very specific treatment done, which ordinarily has got absolutely nothing to do with preventing suicide. So yeah, but that's the new thing. It's just, well, this person will kill themselves if you don't give them this thing, so you got to give them this thing now, even though it doesn't entirely make sense.
Year-old kid, thank God. And I feel genuinely sorry for kids growing up on these platforms being exposed to all of these attention whoring and degenerate ways of life. They don't get to see that all the real trans people are discreet. You don't know that they're trans because they don't want you to know. They want to blend in as a normal person and live a normal life.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm fine with people knowing that I'm trans. Like, I'm not trying to deceive anyone, you know what I'm saying? But I do just want to be able to slip in and out of society as I feel without everyone staring at me. And I get some looks, but for the most part, it's okay. I mean, I'm like super tall for a woman. I say super tall, I'm only 5'10", and I'm like quite skinny. I guess I'm like, you know, people see me coming and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm not, you know, it's not like a trans person is here, everyone, hello, hi, a trans person is here. It's just, I just want to come and go as I please without that being a problem, I guess.
As their changed gender. They don't want anyone asking their pronouns. They want it to be
true. Fuck that shit. Don't ask me my pronouns. Just guess them. If you get it wrong, I'll tell you, or maybe just let you call me a he, because I don't give that much of a shit anymore. I don't like being called they. I don't think people should default to it, because again, it makes it less gratifying. Like, if I tell someone my pronouns, are they calling me it because they think that's what I am, or are they calling me it because that's what I told them to call me? Rather than if someone just calls me a she because that's what they see, then that feels a lot better to me, you know? So that's a huge difference between what, like, non-binary people and what trans people need. Yet we kind of put them in the same group, and we talk about how, like, not like taking massive care around pronouns is transphobic. It's not fucking transphobic, because it's not trans people in the main that care about that shit, you know? And the ones that are, it's usually they look so unfeminine or unmasculine, depending on which way they're going, that's probably why they have to, because no one's going to call them that otherwise.
So obvious that you just assume their gender. That's why they
exactly, yes,
spent thousands of dollars on corrective surgeries so that you could look at them and not ask what they are. That's the whole point of a transition. All of these people you see on social media posting about their transgenderism.
Here's a thing that I really don't understand. Trans people constantly posting, like, comparison pictures, showing pictures of themselves, like, as a boy and themselves now as a girl. Like, I'd have to look really hard to find pictures of me where I actually look masculine, because, like, by the time I was 18, I was wearing makeup, and it took quite a few more years before I actually came out as trans. But, like, I couldn't handle putting pictures of myself as a guy out there. I don't know what it is, like, you know, it's like giving people shit to use against you, you know? It's giving people shit to be like, oh, this is what they really look like, you know? Where it's like, I'd rather that was a bit of a mystery. I'd rather people just know me as who I am now. So I don't understand that at all. Like, for me, I have gender dysphoria, and that's why I would never do that kind of shit. But it's the normal thing to do now for especially trans women. This is gonna say, I have a feeling of emptiness and need for validation. Yeah. And like the need for validation seems so huge nowadays. Like people are so obsessed with like representation and like seeing themselves and stuff, which I understand to a point, but for the most part feels kind of narcissistic. Like for me, I don't so much look for representation. Like I'll watch stuff about like black women. I'm not black, you know. I'll watch stuff about like Muslims. I'm not a Muslim. Because different cultures are interesting to me. And that's more what it's about. Like, I don't need to see, like, a binary transsexual woman who only uses she, her pronouns and is post-op. I don't need every fucking show to have a character like that in. If there's no trans people in a show, I don't really give a shit, because I'm more interested in, like, the people I relate to aren't the people that are trans. It's the people that have similar personalities to me and express similar kind of views to what I do. And that's the kind of representation I guess I look for, but it's a lot more subtle. And the idea that, no, we just need to see like more trans people and more non-binary people and everything, like, I don't understand it. It feels like it's fueling like people's narcissism more than anything else.
Are the ones transitioning out of a feeling of emptiness and need for validation. They're not doing it out of a genuine sense of dysphoria and discontentment.
I wonder if that was the bit that got them done for hate speech.
With their body. These days, the members of the LGBT community are all demanding.
Like, I'm sorry. Completely no offense to this person, but this like look on the left, there's no coherence to this. This is androgyny for its own sake. You've got like the makeup, the shaved hair, which really doesn't suit them. And then like this top, it doesn't make any sense. There's no cohesion to this, like at all. This is just taking random parts from different people and sticking them together is what it looks like. And I feel that way about a lot of the kind of androgynous looks that you get. It feels like it's done for the sake of it and not because that's just what they kind of look like or because it, you know, makes aesthetic sense. Because often it kind of just doesn't. Like what's his name? Sam Smith. He's kind of the one I always think of. Like you see him in these like crazy outfits and stuff. And then like his head is just like a man's head that he hasn't even shaved and he's just got the short hair and like obviously hasn't done anything with any of it. With this elaborate outfit, it just looks strange. It's like you cut the head off a guy who works in an office and stuck it on a drag queen or something. It's like, why? Like, yeah, okay, you're different. I guess you feel obliged to do that kind of thing because you're non-binary, but it doesn't make any aesthetic sense. It doesn't look good. It's low-key called kind of clowny. Yeah, I guess.
That people acknowledge and accept their often obscure identities. It feels like everyone's desperately grasping at these labels all in.
Okay, every time I see, like, especially a woman with short hair wearing these kind of headbands, it reminds me of, like, when someone has a baby who's a girl, but because their hair isn't really grown or anything, they don't really have any, like, obviously gendered things about them. They put like a headband on them. That is what every short-haired person who wears a headband looks like to me.
On a fight to be unique and interesting. But since when did we become so desperate for approval and validation? These people look
true
attention hungry and childish. It's like they're desperate for the whole world to accept and integrate their worldview. But that
is it bad that video just there? I could tell exactly what it sounded like without even being able to hear it. Like we've got, what was that screaming guy?
I am going to spend the next minute screaming because that is what is going on in here. That is what the trans genocide in this country, in this city, has brought me to.
Trans genocide, I need to talk about that at some point. People don't really say it anymore, but they did for a while. I'm guessing since like the Palestine stuff, people don't feel as good saying it's a genocide anymore, but like, Jesus Christ.
I hate a lot of people on this board.
Wait. Oh, they cut off most of the screaming, I think.
For the reasons that led up to Banko Brown's death. There's a lot of performative people on this board.
There's a lot of performative people on this board coming from a woman with a shaved head and a progress pin on a fucking lapel.
Who will say one thing in support of Black people, homeless people, trans people. Country in this city has brought me to.
Oh, here we go. There's a lot of performative people here, by the way.
Imagine that!
You don't have to imagine it, we can hear it.
I hate this! I hate what you've done to us! I hate what you're doing to us! I hate you, Board of Supervisors! I hate you, London Breed! I hate you, Jenkins!
Hold D.A. Jenkins accountable!
Hey, man! Cowards!
So yeah, I guess if you want to know what kind of activism I'm talking about when I say some of this shit is like over-radicalized and ironically performative, considering what that person was just saying, then there you go.
Expectation is frankly unrealistic and juvenile. My sexuality is not a core part of my identity. I don't purposely
Yes. Why does it have to be? I mean, I guess if you really want it to be, then by itself, that's fine. That's your choice. You do you, but I don't know.
flaunt it. I don't expect anyone to respect it, and I sure as hell don't need a stranger's validation for why it's okay. I am the way that
And that's the other thing, like so many trans people care so much about like transphobes. You've got people like the fucking, what's his name, pissed off lawyer, I think his name is. And he'll like constantly go on about like transphobes. Hang on, let me see if I can find him like an example. There was one like, he'd literally post like pictures of himself, like he'd had a haircut and stuff. And like after a paragraph or two, he's going on about like transphobes. It's like, just enjoy your new haircut, what the hell? Rainbow capitalism. I stopped doing it. It's because I kept making fun of him for it. I'm gonna assume it was just me and no one else.
that I am, whether you like that or not, is absolutely irrelevant to me. I'm not proud of being gay. I think that shit's mad dumb. Because when you think of the word pride, you think of some type of achievement, some accomplishment, something you
Yeah, I said this earlier, pride is a bit alien to me. I only really feel proud of things that I've done, like things that I've made, like, you know, albums that I've made and like, you know, shows that I've done or like just other things that I've done for other people. You know, even, you know, my performance at certain jobs where I've spent years like helping people, like, you know, in a professional setting, but it's still, you know, it still is what it is. But yeah, and it's the same, it goes the same way when people are like proud of being like British or something. Like you can be, it doesn't hurt anyone to be, but it's an alien feeling to me, ultimately.
worked for. My attraction to women is not something that I
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can't talk too much about, because I talk about mostly the same things, but, you know, it's kind of, trans activism is its whole thing. I don't know, I don't even know what I'm supposed to say about it at this point. It's like we want to be as embarrassing as possible, you know? Like, it's like it's meant to be embarrassing for some reason. I don't understand it, but hey.
chose. I didn't work for it. It's just how I am. Straight people don't flaunt the fact that they're straight. That's just how they are. Do you really think that anyone gives a shit
Actually, no, some do. some are a bit over the top with it, but, you know, most of those people get their shit the shit ripped out of them for it, so.
about what genitalia you're attracted to? I genuinely can't think of a more irrelevant detail about your character. I don't give a fuck who you hump. As long as it's not my chick.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. A real gangster ass nigga plays his cards right.
What's weird is, like, for a long time, I didn't realize other people felt this way. I think it was around 2021 or 22, whenever it was that, like, the careful shit was starting to come up. There were a bunch of emails that, like, the streamer Destiny received from like, trans people that watched him. And, like, actually hearing my own perspective back about how terrible these communities are and how actually uninclusive and how narrow they are was, like, kind of mind-blowing to me. I thought I was the only one and I was going insane. I mean, constantly posting about oneself is narcissism pretty much. Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of the one thing, like, when you hear people, like, constantly talking about, like, their identities, or, like, those teachers that are like, oh, I can't wait to teach kids, like, all about these different identities because I'm this identity and, like, it's important and stuff. Like, it does feel narcissistic to me. I mean, I don't even have a fucking identity. I'm just me. So I don't know.